Look, we need to talk about what's actually happening with the Blue Jays right now because the situation with Kyle Tucker and Bo Bichette is reaching a critical point. Ken Rosenthal just dropped a bombshell saying Toronto is the leader for Kyle Tucker right now. That's not some random speculation. That's Ken Rosenthal, one of the most respected reporters in baseball, putting his name on it. Here's what makes this fascinating. Multiple industry sources are now confirming that Tucker wants to play for the Jays. Mark Feinsand reported that two separate sources still have the Blue Jays as Tucker's likely destination after they signed Ohtani. One source literally said once they gave Vladdy the extension, they sent a message that they were going all in to win. Signing Dylan Cease was huge, but adding Tucker would cap off an absolutely incredible 12 months for this organization. Robert Murray said the same thing just days ago. Tucker wants to be in Toronto. When you have multiple credible reporters saying the same thing independently, this isn't leverage play anymore. This is real mutual interest from both sides. The fans are doing their part, flooding every Kyle Tucker post with comments. The front office is clearly making their push. Ross Atkins has been asked about it repeatedly. Ken Rosenthal keeps doubling down on the connection. But here's where things get complicated. Jon Heyman came out last night saying, the Mets are very much in the mix for Kyle Tucker, but still face stiff competition. Ben Nicholson-Smith has been reporting for weeks that the Mets might be an even more likely destination than Toronto for Tucker long-term, though his reporting has shifted a bit recently. Some people smell leverage here, and honestly, they might be right. Think about it. If Tucker isn't getting the money he wants, and clearly he's not, because Toronto isn't willing to give him $400 million, then his camp needs to create pressure. What better way than having Jon Heyman report that the Mets are seriously interested? It puts pressure on the Blue Jays to pay that extra bit, especially with everything that's developing on the Bo Bichette front. Speaking of leverage, Ken Rosenthal also reported that the Mets can't rely on a short-term, high-average annual value deal if they want a realistic chance at signing Tucker. Players in his position have a market that exists to go longer, and that's exactly where Tucker is. That's the position the Jays are in, which is actually really good news for Toronto. They're willing to go long-term, the Mets might not be, and that could be the difference maker. Now let's talk about Bo Bichette, because this is where everything accelerates. Jon Heyman reported yesterday that Bichette is looking for somewhere around $300 million. We don't know the term, assume it's over 10 years, but that's the ballpark we're talking about. They're expected to meet on a video conference call in the coming days, and the club's interest is legitimate. The Phillies have scheduled a meeting with Bichette and have done extensive work on the various roster ripple effects, which would require trading Alec Bohm. If the Phillies sign Bichette, they can move on from JT Realmuto and Alec Bohm. One of the biggest reasons the Phillies are such a possible destination is because Don Mattingly recently went there after leaving the Jays. We know Bo and Mattingly had a really close connection, and that matters in free agency. Bill Madden, a former radio guy with sources, tweeted that his sources are telling him the Phillies are the favorite to sign Bichette right now. They want to sign Mattingly as bench coach, Bo's guy, and there's strong mutual interest that could result in a deal when they meet next week. This is where the dominoes start falling. If Bo signs with Philadelphia, people believe Tucker is going to follow to Toronto shortly after. It stings to potentially lose Bichette, don't get me wrong. But if he goes to the Phillies, that's better than him going to the Yankees or Red Sox or any American League team. Still, you cannot miss on both of these guys. You have to get one of them. The lineup and roster, despite Ross Atkins doing a hell of a job so far this offseason, cannot be finished yet. It's as simple as that. The pressure is mounting. That's probably why we're seeing leverage games being played, or Tucker could actually be legitimately considering the Mets. The Jays have reportedly increased their efforts to get Tucker. They haven't increased their efforts to get Bichette, probably because Bo is heading to Philadelphia for that meeting, and there haven't been any reports of Toronto setting up their own meeting with him. Ken Rosenthal's report about the Mets needing to go long-term actually works in Toronto's favor. The Blue Jays are positioned to offer the years and the stability that Tucker wants in a situation where he'd be hitting in that lineup with Guerrero, Springer when healthy, and potentially a revamped supporting cast. If Tucker won't take a short-term deal with high average annual value, and the Mets aren't willing to commit long-term, that narrows the competition significantly. This is going to get crazy quickly, whether it's the Mets signing a long-term deal with Tucker, though Rosenthal's report suggests they won't, or whether it's Bichette heading to Philadelphia and Tucker following to Toronto right after. Moves are about to happen. We're at the inflection point of the offseason for the Blue Jays. They've positioned themselves as serious players. They've shown commitment by extending Vladdy and signing Cease, and now they need to close on one of these superstar free agents. The next week or two will define Toronto's season before it even starts. This is real, this is happening, and every update matters.